everyone, I'm Saba and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video we're going to be talking all about loose leaf tea versus tea bags. Before we get into the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss another one of my videos. Alright, let's get into it. So loose leaf tea or tea bags? For me, the answer is obvious, but there are pros and cons to both of them. If you haven't seen it already, make sure to check out my video on the health benefits of tea along with my current collection. There I already go over some pros and cons, and I have a nice graphic for you right on the screen that'll be really easy for you guys to go back to. So before we get into comparing the two different types of teas, let's get into a little bit of history behind tea. Most modern day commercial tea bags are made of bleached paper fiber and a heat-sealable plastic. But the very first tea bag was actually made of hand-sewn silk, and it contained the entire tea leaf. Originally, the tea samples were put in these bags because it was a more inexpensive way for them to get the tea samples to their customers without having to pay these shipping and packaging costs of these tins. What was supposed to happen is the whole leaf tea was supposed to be taken out of the bag and brewed, but people just decided to brew it in the bag. They thought this was a lot easier, so when the customers reordered, they requested for it to be kept in the same tea bag. Hand-sewn silk tea bags were, of course, expensive when it came to actually putting them into production and making a ton of them for customers. It also was very time consuming, so things evolved. In the 1920s, they were then made with this gauze type of material, and they were produced commercially. Mr. Sullivan is what I like to call the accidental inventor. He didn't really plan on inventing these tea bags, but he never patented his tea bag discovery, so of course others came out with their own versions of different materials that the tea bags were made of, and yada yada yada. The popularity and demand for tea bags was only growing, so this meant that the production needed to increase, but they needed to cut costs. But even back then, people prioritized convenience over quality when it came to tea. Long story short, then the commercial tea producers came into town with all their hefty machinery, and here we are today. So now I'm going to get into the pros and cons when it comes to loose leaf tea and tea bags. I'm going to start with tea bags. So the obvious and probably the only pro of a tea bag when it comes down to it is its convenience. They're easier to buy, use, and dispose of, so basically it just saves you some time. So the first pro is that it's easy to buy. Now this is because you can find tea bags nowadays pretty much anywhere. The second pro is that it's easy to brew. You don't have to worry about measuring out any tea leaves or how hot the water has to be or them floating up when you're trying to drink it. You literally just boil or heat up some water and plop it in and you're done. It's kind of brainless. The third pro is that it's easily disposable, so literally all you have to do is just pick it up by the little string and throw it in the trash. Now, let's get into the cons. Now, like I said before, tea bags are convenient, but they have major quality issues, and you do pay for convenience, so they are more expensive. Now, disclaimer before anybody comes at me in the comments, I'm not talking about the premium tea bags or the pyramid tea bags. I'm talking about just the typical standard tea bag that you would see like a Lipton or something like that. That's the tea bag that I'm referring to when I talk about these pros and cons. So the first con is quality. Now quality is the biggest con when it comes to tea bags. Low quality ingredients are number one. Most tea bags are just filled with broken tea leaves and leftover dust, pretty much. What goes into the tea bags is basically the leftover particles that are used after the loose leaf teas are packaged up. I know it's probably not something that you thought about before, but space is actually another con. Tea bags are actually too small to allow for the tea leaves to completely uncurl and unfold. To be honest, that's usually why the bags are filled with those little particles in the first place. You're going to miss out also on a ton of nutrients and flavor when it comes to tea bags. They release more tannins too when they're brewed, so they're going to be a lot more bitter than a loose leaf tea would be. Some tea bags also do contain chemicals, which of course is going to be brewed in your tea when you're heating it up and drinking it. Okay, end rant about the quality. Now the second con is that they're less healthy. The small leaf particles lose most of their essential oils, so the tea has way less nutrients that are supposed to be making the tea really healthy for you in the first place. If the purpose of you drinking your teas for the health benefits, you're actually going to be missing out on those health benefits from a lot of the tea bags that you're going to be purchasing from the stores. So number 3 is the cost. Tea bags actually cost a lot more than loose leaf teas. The premium bags that I mentioned before are even more expensive. So I may have lost some of you guys here, but just hear me out. At first glance, it may look like tea bags are cheaper, but I assure you, they're not. If you're going to compare the teas by the cup, the loose leaf tea is going to win every time when it comes to being cheaper. The fourth con is that it's a one and done when it comes to a tea bag. Now this is going to be a big factor when it comes to the cost of teas. Tea bags are a one-time use. You're just going to use it in your teacup and throw it away when you're done. When you have loose leaf tea, you can actually brew those same tea leaves multiple times. You can use 3 to 5 times is typically the amount that you can brew them. The fifth con is that tea leaves have a mixture of different tea leaf scraps and particles. This means that regular tea bags don't contain just one tea. They usually contain a variation of different leaf scraps from all different places, so you're never really getting a specific type of tea that you're looking for. The sixth con is the freshness. Tea bags are, of course, industrially produced, and they also sit on store shelves or warehouse shelves for months and sometimes even years. Tea does go stale, so typically they'll last for about a year. So if they're in a warehouse for years at a time, or they're already there for months and you're not going to drink it in a couple months like all of the tea that you have, then it's just going to be stale and gross. The final con that I'm going to be talking about today is the environmental impact of tea bags. Every time you dispose of a tea bag and the metal staple, it's of course going to affect the environment. But if you are using some of those premium bags, they are biodegradable, so I will definitely recommend that you try those bags rather than the typical like a Lipton tea bag. Now let's get into the loose leaf tea. The major cons of tea bags were quality and cost, but these are the major pros when it comes to tea leaves. So pro number 1 is quality. Drinking loose leaf tea equals quality. Even if you find a lower quality loose leaf tea, it's still going to be better than any standard tea bag that you're going to find. With loose leaf teas, the full flavor profile is going to be released because loose leaf tea either has the entire tea leaf or really big pieces of it. It also retains all of the essential oils from the tea leaves, so it's going to go right into your teacup, unlike the tea bags. The second pro is the cost. Cost is a major factor, like I mentioned before. The third pro is that loose leaf tea puts you in control. You can use as much or as little of the tea leaves as you want, so you can make it as strong or as weak as you'd like, and you can also mix a couple different blends of loose leaf tea to kind of customize your own tea flavor. The third pro is that there are multiple steeps. I mentioned this earlier too. So again, you can reuse these tea leaves multiple times. And just so you guys know, the flavor profile is going to change a little bit each time, which all that means is you're just going to have some variety in your life. I typically like the second or third brew better than my first. I feel like it just comes out a little bit stronger for me. I like that. The fourth pro is going to be the freshness of loose leaf tea. Loose leaf tea is usually freshly packed and sealed, so it's going to stay fresh for a very long time. I have a lot of my loose leaf teas and they're going to be in tins or glass containers, everything that's really airtight. Whereas tea bags are typically all loose in a cardboard little type box, not even really cardboard, but you get the gist. Loose leaf tea is also quickly brought to the market, so it's not going to be sitting on shelves like forever like tea bags do. The fifth pro is that they retain the tea's health benefits. I mentioned this before, so when the tea leaves stay intact, they retain all of their essential oils. When steeping, all of the oils and minerals and vitamins are going to be right into your cup ready for you to just ingest them. Now let's get into some of the cons of loose leaf tea. The cons of loose leaf teas compared to the tea bags have to do with convenience. So this is obviously the complete opposite of a tea bag. I know everybody's got busy lives, so I know a lot of the times convenience just kind of trumps everything else. They don't really care about the quality, it's just whatever's quicker. So the first con is that they're a little bit more difficult to brew. Now, is this super hard? No. I mean, if you wanted to, there are certain teas that you can just brew right into your cup. You don't have to worry about straining or anything. I personally don't like that. I know it's not going to kill you, but I don't like anything really floating in my tea. If they're like little baby particles, I don't care, but I don't want to be trying to drink with like giant tea leaves in my mouth. I use a strainer to just keep all of the tea leaves out of my cup. Now I'll make sure to show you guys a couple of the different things that I use when I brew my loose leaf tea. With loose leaf tea, you have to figure out how much tea leaves that you need or that you want. You have to figure out the temperature of the water and the steeping time. I'm going to give you a little tip here when it comes to temperature. You only need boiling water if you're going to be brewing black tea or pu'er tea. You don't need it to be boiling for any other tea. Now some people don't want to be bothered, so they just opt for a bag. I'm here to tell you that it's way simpler than you think, and there are plenty of options for everybody out there. You can use a teapot with a strainer or an infuser. You can use mugs with the same thing, or you can use an infuser basket or even a ball. So I'm just gonna turn over here and show you what I have really quick. Move this way. So now I have just a normal premium green tea Bigelow tea bag, and I have these loose leaf tea leaves. These are actually sage tea leaves. If you saw my other video, you saw me talking about these. These are from Greece. So delicious, but I just want to show you the difference of basically the difference of what I'm talking about here. So like loose leaf and the tea bag. As far as the different, I guess, instruments, if you want to say, that you can use, I showed you these in my other video as well. These are just different strainers that you can use. So this one, I mean, they're both stainless steel. This one just looks a little bit fancier, but this is the one that I mentioned has smaller holes than this one, so the bottom is a little bit bigger. So some of the teas that I use, the little particles do come out into my tea, so I'm mindful of that. But if you are looking to purchase one of these, I would recommend getting one with smaller holes. And then I also have this baby. So this was a Christmas gift, and this is an electric teapot. But this one has, as you can see, the strainer right inside. I mean, you can just put whatever you want, I guess, in this regardless, and it just heats it up electrically. But it has a giant strainer here. So if you want to make multiple cups, like I talked about in my other video, just for yourself, for everybody else, you're more than welcome to do that. Now, the way this works is you just put the water inside, you plug it in, and it lights up blue when you click on the button, and then it'll start boiling. When it's done boiling, it literally just shuts it off on its own. Now, when it comes to brewing with this, you can do whatever you want. I typically like to brew with the tea leaves already inside, because if you look at the mechanism, when you put the strainer in there, there's nowhere really for the tea leaves to kind of fly out. It's all kind of contained in here. But I believe the actual directions on there were that you boil this just with the water and then you put in your tea leaves afterwards, but it's whatever. And with this too, like I said, you can do multiple steeps, but with this, it's cool because like how big and clear this is. You can see the longer you let the tea leaves steep, the deeper and darker that the color is going to get, just like a really strong tea. But again, you got to be careful when it comes to that, because certain teas just get more bitter, but that's, everyone's kind of palate is different, and you might like that. So it's super easy. Usually I'll just put about, depending on the tea, but I'll usually put about 1 to 2 teaspoons of the tea leaves into my strainer and then just let that steep, and it usually works out for me. If you think it's a little weak, you can add more. If you think it's too strong, just add some more water and kind of dilute it a little bit. But it's super easy in my opinion. I don't think it's that much different. Instead of putting a tea bag in there, you're scooping some of the leaves. Now the second con is going to be the disposal. This, in my opinion, can be the only annoying part. Cleaning the leaves out of the strainer and throwing them in the garbage. I mean, honestly, it takes seconds, but I don't know why. So it's just like gets annoying to me sometimes. So typically what I'll do is, I'm usually using the strainer, so I'll just take it out of the cup and I'll just tap it over the garbage can to get most of it out of there, and then I'll just usually take like my finger and just scrape around like this to get whatever's left, and usually there's like a couple things in there. So then I'll go to the sink and just like use the hose part on the outside and just rinse the rest of it out. I mean, it literally takes seconds, but instead of just plopping something in the garbage, you just gotta like rinse this out. And this is stainless steel and everything, so this can go right in the wash. It's all good. The third con is the availability. Loose leaf tea isn't available everywhere like normal tea bags are, but let's be real. You don't have to go to specialty stores nowadays. I mean, everything's online. Amazon has everything, or please, you can find loose leaf tea. Now, which do I prefer? Hands down, loose leaf tea. I hardly ever use a tea bag, honestly, unless it's maybe a flavor that I really like and I don't have a loose leaf tea version or something like that. So if you do prefer tea bags, then I would just highly suggest that you use a premium bag or one of the pyramid ones. They're going to be way better for you and you're going to get a nicer brew and just an overall better experience. Well, that's all I have for this video, you guys. I hope you liked it and I hope you learned something new. Make sure to give me your feedback in the comment section below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss another one of my videos. If you want to get my exclusive nutrition tips, healthy food recommendations, and delicious recipes right to your inbox, then make sure to head over to my description box, click the link, and join the fam. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.